All right. Good evening, Eureka Whiskey Club. Thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Not sure what the weather is like in where you're currently viewing this, but if you are a resident of Southern California, like I know many of our members are, it's a bit of a hot day today. So hopefully you were able to stay cool. If not, we'll drink some whiskey tonight and it'll warm you up even more. And, sorry. But we're excited to be here together for the April edition of Eureka Whiskey Club. And I will get into welcoming our guests here soon. Again, if you're joining us from Facebook, as we say always, if you're joining us from Facebook or YouTube, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. And at the end of the night here, about the last 20-30 minutes, we'll do Q&A and pick some great questions, and we have some prizes to give away. But just make sure if you are commenting from an account that does not, it's not the same name on that account as the name of your membership. Make sure you're just putting the name of your the name associated with your membership in the comment before your question. But if your account name is the same on what your platform you're using to watch this and your membership, then don't worry about it. But without further ado, I am joined by three wonderful gentlemen from the Journeyman team. Once again, we have all beards across the board. As someone pointed out last call, it is a requirement to have a beard to work in the whiskey industry. So we vetted our guests properly. And did any of you have to grow a beard for this call, or were the beards already there?
Tom grew his just this morning.
I Rogained mine a couple hours ago.
Nice. All right. Well, gentlemen, I'll pass it over to you. Kevin, you want to start, and then maybe we'll go to Tom, and then we'll end with Bill. Just who you are and what is your affiliation with Journeyman.
Yeah. So I guess I'd be the youngest member just on like my stint at Journeyman. I started in 2018 as a Journeyman's Northeast market manager. Originally got into the liquor industry as an assistant distiller for a farm distillery in New York State. Had my hands in everything from mashing grain, fermentation, first like wash run of distillation, bottles coming in, barrels going out. And really just had my hands on like the production side of everything, and eventually got into sales. And I loved what I was doing, but not exactly who I was doing it for. And I'm a big believer in craft distilleries that make everything themselves, and Journeyman was the perfect home for what I was doing. So as of recently, coming off of COVID, I came back to Journeyman as Northeast market manager to national sales manager. And, just having a lot of fun doing it, trying not to make any mistakes along the way, and learning a lot every single day. But we're currently sitting in 34 states. We have a beautiful partnership with an awesome broker, and we are coming off of our best year ever. So a very exciting time to be at Journeyman right now. And I'll pass it along to Bill.
Tom's going to jump in.
Yeah, my name's Tom Balich, production manager here at Journeyman. I've actually been with the distillery for over 10 years now. I started as an unpaid intern, just kind of learning the ropes.
That's not legal anymore.
Bill taught me everything he I know, at least. I don't know if he taught me everything he knew. But, learned everything and got hired full time from there, and just kind of been sticking with the company, working my way up, and yeah, excited for the future, as Kevin mentioned, and love bringing out good whiskey every day.
Hey guys, Bill Welter here. My wife and I started Journeyman back in 2010, and we're still owner operators. Still own 100% of the company, and fiercely proud of that. We're here in Michigan. Tom and I are in Three Oaks, Michigan. Kevin's out in New York, but huge fans of California. So thanks for your support. Thanks for an opportunity to talk with you guys tonight. and tell a few stories. But yeah, just can't wait. Actually, I'm coming out to California in June. I can't wait. It's going to snow here tomorrow, so we're trying to vacation, get away.
So my comment about it being 90 degrees in Southern California, was that a...
Yeah, that kind of hurt. Yeah, so it's going to be a high of 37 here tomorrow, so we're still kind of like winter's still lingering.
Well, I want to say I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't. Maybe you're like,
We'll
you
survive.
enjoy your, yeah.
Makes us tough.
We don't know what 37 degrees looks like in California.
Yeah.
Cool. So really excited to have you guys on the call. If you're just joining us again, this is the April edition of the Eureka Whiskey Club. And as always, we highly encourage questions for our Q&A at the end. And I just wanted to mention the prizes that we have to give away tonight. So we will choose the top 2 questions of the night. As always, I will let we have 3 guests tonight, which one of you guys will have to fight. Since we're on 2 separate screens here, I think Bill and Tom, since you're in the same place, you'll come up with your favorite question of the night, and then Kevin, you get to choose your favorite question, and then I will have the
taking notes on you people.
I will have the challenge or the bad man job of choosing first and second place. So for second place, we have a swag bag, Journeyman swag bag to give away, just full of a bunch of cool items and POS items from Journeyman. First place, we'll get a signed single barrel bottle chosen by Bill and Tom, from what I'm told. And anybody else that is, I don't know anybody else that's choosing, and that will be a signed bottle. You'll get a swag bag, and then you'll get an 11x17 poster signed by Bill. So you can have like a Farrah Fawcett-esque, poster in your room signed by Bill. You're not going to be in a red one piece, are you? Bill?
I didn't agree with that.
It might come with a lock of Bill's beard.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. So I guess let's just get right into it. Bill, you said you opened the distillery in 2010, but I know there's history prior to that as well. You, as always, we do provide our members with their monthly info card. So you got some info on the whiskey, some tasting notes, and then some history. But Bill, from firsthand, we want to hear the history of Journeyman. Where it started and why you wanted to open up a distillery.
Yeah, thanks again. So I guess for me, it goes back to Scotland. I had a chance to live in Scotland for 18 months, going back to 2001. Actually played collegiate golf, believe it or not. And then after playing 4 years in college, I had a chance to go overseas and kind of learn more about the history of the game, and ended up moving to St. Andrews. So for those of you who are golfers, that St. Andrews is the home of golf. And so I went over there really to kind of learn more about the history of the game, and ended up kind of working some of my first hospitality jobs too. So I worked in the restaurant industry. First started actually as a dishwasher in St. Andrews at the Old Course Hotel, right on the 17th hole of the Old Course, and then quickly transitioned into waiting tables in town there. And so that story kind of evolves through hospitality, actually. So at the restaurant that I worked at as a waiter, I became good buddies with a bartender named Greg Ramsey. Greg was from Tasmania, the small island south of mainland Australia. And Greg was actually there as kind of a 22-year-old recent college graduate entrepreneur who was trying to raise money to build a golf course in Tasmania. And so he and I kind of hit it off right away. He was an avid golfer, and here's this 22-year-old kid trying to build a golf course in Tasmania. And I didn't even know where Tasmania was when I met him, but he was also a real expert at whiskey, as much of an expert as you can be at that age. And personally, me having come from college background, and wasn't really into whiskey. Whiskey was kind of a vehicle to get drunk and partying in college, and you weren't really asking like, where did this come from? How was it made? You know, what grains were used? You were just, you know, drinking it. And then Greg taught me, as well as many of the Scots, kind of more about the history of whiskey. It's really a huge part of their society. The word whiskey is a Gaelic word that means water of life. So it's really like, you know, it's sewn into the fabric of their society. And that was a complete 180 for me in terms of whiskey and how it was appreciated. Long story short, Greg goes back to Tasmania. I came back to the U.S. to work in our family business. Greg ended up opening that golf course. He got it built. It's Barnbougle Dunes in Tasmania, and it's in the top 100 in the world now.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. Google it, Barnbougle Dunes, Greg Ramsey. He exists. So I went back, worked in the family business for 5 or 6 years before it was sold. And then for me, I was left looking for kind of plan B. And I circled back with Greg, who in 2006, about the same time, was about to open a distillery in Tasmania. He opened Nant Distillery, N-A-N-T. And Greg was instrumental in getting that distillery off the ground. And I remember him calling me up, you know, here he's built one of the world's great golf courses. Now he's building a distillery. And I just said, you know, I didn't even know you could build a distillery. I didn't know that was a thing, but the laws in Australia had changed, allowing for craft distilling to occur. And so Greg took advantage of that and opened this distillery in Tasmania. I went and visited. A few years later, I went back and actually worked for him in 2010 with the intent of opening a distillery here in the Midwest. And so I traveled to Tasmania, spent 2 months there working at Lark Distillery, Sullivan's Cove, Hobart Distilling, Nant, of course. And there were about 6 distilleries on the island at the time. I think there's over 50 now. Came back from Tasmania, wanted to open the distillery in Northwest Indiana, where I was from, just outside of Chicago, and the laws did not allow for craft distilling back then in Indiana. So fortunately, we're about 30 minutes from there. We're just across the state line into Michigan, where they do allow for craft distilling, and as well as many great breweries. And we opened Journeyman in 2010. It was my wife and I. We had 3 employees kind of out of the gate, and the company since has grown to we're at 145 employees, and we're embarking on a second production facility, and as well as kind of our model's kind of an entertainment complex, not unlike McMiniman's, which you guys have kind of out west in Oregon and Washington, Northern California. So we'll be opening up a restaurant and event spaces and things of that nature with the new facility.
And that's going to be in Michigan as well?
Actually, just in Indiana. The laws changed. Actually, I helped change the laws in Indiana so that we could do this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know if you all know much about Indiana, but we just, for Indiana just started allowing Sunday liquor sales. So I think we were the last state to allow Sunday sales. So, I mean, it's a pretty, you know, it's kind of like a prohibitionist state.
Yeah, I'm glad that California is not like that, but I have been to states that have. I went to. I remember, this is off topic, but I went to St. Patrick's Day in Boston, like I don't know, 10 years ago, and like the liquor stores are open on Sundays, but they don't open till like noon, and it was like the longest line outside of a liquor store I've ever seen in my entire life on St. Patrick's Day in Boston. Everyone trying to get in the liquor store at noon.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. I like golf, but I am terrible at it. So
Most of us
but,
are. We have a putting green at our distillery as well here in Three Oaks. We built a 30,000 square foot putting green. It's real grass. We maintain it, and
that's awesome.
And it's free for kids, with the idea of kind of encouraging growth and development in the game of golf for kids, but also, parents have a chance to come out and, have a cocktail, but also let their kids run around and put down the iPads for 5 minutes and enjoy the outdoors.
That's really cool. Provide a space for kids, and the parents will come and drink.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So Tom, do you want us? Obviously, you introduced yourself here. Can you give us what kind of led you to, or where your passion for spirits and whiskey started, and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I started at Journeyman fresh out of college. So I guess my passion was enjoying alcohol in a recreational manner. But growing up, I'd always been interested in the production. My dad, we made wine every year in the fall, and he also had a small still of his own. So I had a little bit of familiarity with it, and always thought it would be interesting. And it's just having a hand in producing and bringing enjoyment to people has always been great. And really, this job has kind of just taught me everything as far as all that goes. It's kind of like a trade. You learn on the job. It's almost like an apprenticeship in a way, and you're always learning. And that's another very very fun and interesting and challenging thing about distilling is you're always learning. There's always new methods, new ways, new everything, and that's really been great.
Something
Awesome.
I'd love to know more about, even being on the Journeyman team, is that there's 3 different stills at Journeyman, and each one progressively getting larger and larger. And the newest one, we kind of have to stand on a ladder to even close the lid. Maybe would you be able to give a little, little info on production output since 2011?
Yeah. Like Kevin mentioned, we have 3 stills on hand: a 40-gallon, 290-gallon, and then about a 1,300 gallon. So we've kind of scaled up quite a bit. The 40-gallon we've always just historically used for gin, small batch, things like that. And we made most of our whiskey from 2011 to 2016 on a 1,000-liter, 290-gallon Cota pot hybrid still. And so it's batch distillation. We've kind of pretty quickly realized that we were outgrowing that rather rapidly, and in 2016 we moved into our current biggest still, which is 5,000 liters or 1,300 gallons. Same type of still, same still manufacturer. If you're not familiar with Cota at all, it's a German company, great quality, and the hybrid still allows us to do a lot of different things. We can do gins, rum, vodka, gin, bourbon. Any type of whiskey, which is great for us as a small craft distillery to be flexible and do a lot of those different products. And I know even another great kind of example of where things are going to change and different things to learn is for Valpo when we open, which will be the new location. We're planning to get a Vendome column still, so that'll be a whole different challenge, whole different style of distilling and trying to be more kind of historically bourbon at that point.
So why add a 4th type of still at the new facility? Why not just replicate the same thing you guys have going on at the current facility? I mean, is it just for branching out and doing different things?
Yeah, I think so. And efficiencies. If you go to Kentucky or go on the Bourbon Trail, everyone's running Vendome column stills, and there's a reason for that. They make great whiskey, specifically bourbon, and they're super efficient. We have goals to really grow the distillery and grow the brand. They're fairly lofty, and hopefully this is something that we'll be able to grow into over the years I feel like we always, especially with the stills here, we're like, oh, this is going to be good for a while. This is going to be good for a while. Then pretty quickly, we max it out. So we're running 24/7 production on our current still. So we're 7 days a week, all night. And it's batch distillation is just a little less efficient. So trying to maximize efficiencies and duplicate some good whiskey practices.
We actually have 4 stills on property though. We have a vacuum still that we experiment with. We're doing some like unique gin distillations, just kind of for experimental and just kind of for fun.
Is it like a rotovac,
yeah. And then, I mean, I think also part of it, Trevor, too, is just kind of that curiosity and it's like a new toy. I mean, the Vendome, I think, we're looking forward to the challenge, but also think it can make great whiskey as well. We think we're making really great whiskey, but it's just kind of a new look and feel for us. But I mean, if God willing, if we have an opportunity, I'd love to get some Forsyth stills as like, another opportunity down the road if we're able to grow into it and just, continually creating unique spirits and using these amazing contraptions to do it.
Do you have a favorite setup? A favorite still? Or is it like choosing your favorite child?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the first one, right? So yeah, our first still, we call it Willy Wonka. I mean, I always like telling the story Michigan.
Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp?
Yeah, yeah, right. Fun. I like Wilder. But we opened when we opened our distillery, we were one of the there were less than 250 licensed distilleries in the United States at that time. And so we were definitely like early on and nobody thought we were going to do anything. I remember my dad trying to talk me out of it and the whole thing. And when I'm not kidding, 8 out of 10 customers that walked through the door in that first year asked us what kind of beer we had. And so we really spent, and I think this is where craft distilling really has done more for the big guys than the big guys have done for us, where we've spent like an amazing amount of time educating people at this distillery. And that's what craft distillers are doing. They're telling people, no, we don't make beer. Come look at our still. And this is how we make distilled spirits. And that's kind of how that first still got its name. We would walk people, into the building, afraid that they'd walk out the door if we didn't get them a little further in. And we'd show them the still. And people, so many people commented that it looked like something out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So the name Willy Wonka stuck for the name of the still. And that's kind of how, we grew this brand locally by just hand holding people and letting them know, because the big guys weren't doing tours. They didn't need to. There was no reason for it. They're selling, millions of cases in distribution. You don't need to manage a tour operation or a restaurant or event spaces, but those pieces of the puzzle were huge for us. And the first day we opened, we had 27 people come to our opening day. And today, pre-COVID in 2019, we had over 200,000 visitors to our distillery in Three Oaks. So, I mean, it grew and it grew in a great way. And I think it grew through that idea that there is nothing more important than the customer, and that we were going to educate people on what distilling was and really show them a great time, and it's paid off.
That's awesome. Yeah, someone in the comments has already said that they've visited the distillery and they had a question, which I think we'll get to hopefully here in the Q&A section. But obviously, I think a big part of at least what you guys put out on the forefront is being USDA or organic. I believe you have another organic certification that I can't remember off the top of my head. I guess was that always something you knew you wanted to do, and what was why go through that, what some would say an extra step to be certified organic, and I guess why is that important to you guys?
I think that was a no-brainer for us right out of the gate. One, you know, I was a vegetarian for 10 years. I was far healthier back then than I am now, but I was focused on that area of organics and healthy eating, and so right out of the gate, we knew that we wanted to buy grains from local family farms that were producing organic rye, organic corn and wheat, and so that was a very easy decision. And actually, we buy grain from a lot of local farms. So I know New York State did a study not long ago just showing that brewing and distilling had a $5 billion impact on agriculture in New York. And so we know that what we're doing is impactful in Michigan. So I think there's a feel-good component to that. But also, even more importantly, we feel like the grains produce a higher quality spirit. So organic, kosher, gluten-free, all of those things, I think, roll up into something that's unique. We're a grain to bottle distillery. I think that goes without saying, but everything that we do here, we're making from scratch. And I always tell people it's hard to make distilled spirits, and it's something that we're really proud of, and it's part of kind of our core principles and values, the organic and kosher, and the fact that we're making our own spirits. So and it's more a unique thing than I think most people think, where you actually walk into a working distillery and see it operating at from start to finish.
I actually want to touch on that real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
For most things about whiskey, you can actually learn by reading the label. One thing that's really important is this verbiage right here. It says distilled and bottled by Journeymen. That means that we're not outsourcing any of our production, and every single drop of ethanol alcohol has been done on site, in-house, through our supervision. And then with our organic, kosher, gluten-free certifications, we're not allowed to add any type of flavoring or coloring. So like in an industry where a lot of people are sourcing, in an industry where a lot of people put in additives after the fact, I just enjoy that there's no smoke and mirrors with the brand. What you see is what you get, and it's a very authentic product.
Awesome.
I don't know, Trevor, if you want, sorry, I had it on private chat. I just saw some of the comments. Did you want us to answer any of them, or?
No, we'll the last 20, 30 minutes here, our maestro in the background will start feeding some questions into the private chat, and I'll start asking those towards the end. But if I don't ask something that you saw that you want to answer, feel free, after the Q&A to chime in. But
yeah,
I think my last question before we start tasting the whiskey here, I'm already getting some crap from people because I have my side beer on this call. Fun fact: I'm actually on vacation at the moment, so I was enjoying my pool before this call. And had about half a beer to finish. So don't judge me. No, my last question before we start tasting the whiskey. Journeyman's been mentioned by Forbes and a few other publications as kind of like some of the best whiskey made outside of Kentucky. I guess what would you say differentiates whiskey made in the state of Michigan versus whiskey made in Kentucky, and why you think that you guys have been able to make those lists and get those accolades?
I mean, I think it's a just unwavering commitment to quality, and when you mentioned Kentucky early on, and I came across some old bottles that I had and locked up in a closet, and I came across a 2009 George Stagg bottle, and it was half old, so that was the good news. But back in
that wouldn't last long in my house, I can tell you that much.
So the good news, it made me. I remember, getting that and thinking, this is incredible whiskey. And I went down to Buffalo Trace, and I really admired what they'd done there, and loved the whiskey, and that wheat component was what really stood out to me. And so we just, we don't mind. We just blatantly ripped off the use of their wheat. So, I mean, almost every product we're making has some kind of wheat component to it, including the bourbon that you guys will have tonight. But additionally, we had some great success. Fred Minnick, we make a product called Corsets, Whips, and Whiskey, which is 100% wheat whiskey. And the name, so we're in an old corset and buggy whip factory dating back to the 1880s. And so that's where that name Corsets, Whips, and Whiskey comes in. But it's 100% wheat, and Fred, named it the best wheat whiskey in America. But also, he does a thing at the end of the year where every whiskey he's tried, he ranks them, and he rated our Corsets fourth out of everything he tried in 2020. So I think that wheat component is definitely a big factor to our success.
And this mash bill is what we're tasting today, the Featherbone. What percent? It's 25% organic wheat.
Yep, 25% wheat, 5% rye. The rest is corn.
Awesome.
And we use white corn, which is a little unique as well. We just feel it's a little cleaner and higher quality corn compared to a lot of the yellow corns that we've tried as well. So that'll be another unique factor in this bourbon compared to a lot of others.
Cool. Well,
at the same time, I mean, the guys in Kentucky, for whatever you feel, they make great stuff. In my opinion, it's, we weren't really looking to replicate the whole thing, but there are pieces of it that we brought along with us. But we think our products are unique in the sense that they're a reflection of the environment. So we get our water out of an aquifer here in Three Oaks. We're buying local certified organic and kosher grains. Obviously every environment that a barrel sits in is unique to itself. So I really feel like that's what craft distilling is. That, I don't want to go to a craft distillery and find out, that all the products they're selling are from MGP in Indiana, because that's the terroir of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. I want to go to a craft distillery and try something that I've never had before. And I think that's what you get with Journeyman. And we like to believe that the quality is there as well. So I think it's a win-win. It's unique and it tastes good.
Awesome. I think we can kind of dive right into tasting the whiskey now. So as always at home, if you haven't cracked your bottles already, now would be a good time to do so. Drink it out of the Journeyman
We've got our bottle
Glencairn that you got here. So I already have mine poured. I have my tasting notes here in my flavor scale kind of thing. We also have a cocktail on the back, sidecar recipe. So if you have the ability to make that this evening, feel free to do so. For time's sake, I don't think I'm going to be able to make the drink today, and I already have my side beer. So if you want to make the cocktail, go ahead and do so. But we're going to start drinking some whiskey. But again, these are my tasting notes. The gentlemen on the call tonight will have their own tasting notes as well. But I know all our members love to see what other people think and what you get. So I will pass things over. Who wants to dive right in? We can talk about the nose of the whiskey to start.
Yeah, totally. So when I'm smelling Featherbone bourbon, I always like to think of the ingredients that it comes from, and it is primarily white corn. I actually live in the mountains in New York State, so the aroma that comes off the bourbon actually is a huge reminiscence of like where I'm from, and I always think that there's like kind of like hay, earth, kind of grassier notes that are like underneath. I always get something very sweet Just something that's very inviting off of the nose with the Featherbone bourbon. And a part of the terroir, if you guys all have your bottles, we have this pump house here. It's actually how we pump up all of our water that we use for all of our proofing, all of our cooking, and really every single drop is part of that mineral-rich water that we have going on underneath Three Oaks, Michigan. But I have a batch that's very close to what you guys are pouring, so Tom might be able to break down like the size of the barrels, how old it is.
Yeah, so this is all around just over 3 years in 30-gallon barrels. So we've historically used a lot of different size barrels. Right now, most of what we're putting is 53s, but this was bottled in the end of summer last year. And yeah, all 30-gallon barrels from the barrel mill, which is the cooperage we use for those barrels, all level 3 char in there, and stored at our warehouse right down the road here, which is not temperature controlled. So it gets very hot and humid in the summers and very, very cold in the winter. So nice fluctuation. So it saw 3 summers, which should see some good aging, some good oak, and some good flavors that you're picking up on.
And I know there's no age statement on the bottle, but is there like an average age, or do you disclose that information for this?
Yeah, it kind of varies on what barrel size we're doing. So historically, when we started, we were doing 15-gallon barrels for about 1.5 to 2 years, and then now we've kind of phased into 30-gallon barrels, which are about 30 to 36 months usually. But these are all over 3 years. Actually, it's been more recently, I guess, over 3 years, 3 to 4 years on the 30-gallon barrels, and then we're hoping to get the 53s once we've had enough of them sitting for 5+ years, so that we can get for optimum extraction there.
Awesome. Bill, do you have any aroma notes that you want to share with the group? Or
I always get like a real earthiness to the featherbone. You know, as Tom's already alluded to, that white corn has unique flavor. It's different. And you know, I guess Kevin, the corn reminds him of New York. I guess it reminds me of kind of just, you know, the Midwest. You know, you get kind of that essence of the Midwest soil, and just, you know, you can walk out there right now and smell the rain and smell the ground and the spring coming. Yeah, I get a lot of fruitiness to it. Some berry notes, and you know, some of those traditional kind of vanilla and butterscotch notes as well.
You guys obviously have much more of a connection to the raw ingredients, and usually when and our members probably know this by now if you've been a member for a while, I always kind of relate my aromas and tasting to more childhood memories or memories. You know, we've said it before, that your olfactory center is located right next to the place in your brain where you store memories. And I definitely, now that you guys are saying you get all these earthy qualities, but I think the first time I smelt it, it reminded me of a Saturday morning and opening up a fresh bag of Cookie Crisp cereal. Mm-hmm. Like just, you know, these cereal notes and like kind of this sweet chocolate and caramel kind of thing going on. So if you look at your notes and you see Cookie Crisp cereal, again, these are my my notes, but that's definitely the main note I got here, and then just some kind of cola notes and but really, really beautiful nose here. Trying to see if anybody in the chat has said anything about their thoughts. So doesn't look like we have anything yet, but if you do have any tasting notes, please chime in. But let's taste the whiskey. We can talk about the palate and the kind of the finish, and then I think we're after that we're about ready to start taking some questions from the peanut gallery.
So
Kevin, you want to go ahead, sorry.
when I'm tasting this, There's something kind of like buttery, kind of a creamier texture that comes to like initially like roll off my tongue. Something we do at Journeyman is non-chill filtration on all of our whiskey. So we leave all of the oils, fats, lipids that have survived from mashing, fermentation, distillation, barrel aging, and filtering for charcoal. So there is definitely like this beautiful oily kind of like texture that runs across my palate. We proof everything at 90 proof, something we think that is perfect for somebody that likes whiskey neat, but also wants something that can hold up in cocktails. So, I mean, I previously coming from a production background, I love like the stuff that's coming off of a column still that you can drink, 196 proof or something. So I personally, my palate, 45% alcohol, it's light, it's easy, it's something that goes down quite well.
Yeah, on the palate for me, I'm definitely getting kind of that butterscotch-esque thing going on. Lots of vanilla. Get a little bit of spice, like some baking spices, cinnamon for sure, and kind of a peanut butter. I think like a creamy kind of peanut butter thing going on as well. The finish for me is pretty. I don't think it lingers, but it's not short either. I think it's definitely a medium finish, and kind of finishes for me with that cinnamon characteristic, some anise, and then I think just kind of like this cola-esque kind of flavor. But Bill, Tom, anything to add to that?
Raisin notes, kind of a little bit of the cola component is something we hear quite often, especially with our Silver Cross whiskey. Yeah, I agree with you on the finish. It's kind of a medium finish. Doesn't linger, but it's not short. It's just a nice balance. The color's got a nice kind of golden hue to it. Yeah, just kind of reminds me of a nice warm summer day in California.
It's tasting great. It's not quite summer here yet, but it feels like it today.
Just rub it up.
You're coming here in June. Cool. Yeah, I think some comments from the chat here. Caramelized, something like peanut brittle. Kevin Bird says. Danielle says, I don't know about Cookie Crisp, but almost toasted buttered French toast with a dash of cinnamon. It's great. Love it. Finish is clean with the cinnamon, towards the end. So awesome. So hope everyone's enjoying their pours and you enjoy the bottle. And obviously, I think the additions we add to the box are always nice. I know everyone was excited about the stroopwafel, this caramel kind of snack we put in there that I think goes really well with the whiskey. You got your Glencairn this month, your keychain, a sticker, and then kind of a badass Journeyman bandana. So enjoy the swag as always. Thank you to Journeyman for all that. And then so I think we're ready to start asking some questions. I will try my best to recap everything, and Kevin, Bill, Tom, you guys got to choose your favorites. And I think I said that Bill and Tom, you guys had to choose one, but we'll let everyone choose their favorite, and then I will choose the top two. So I will have I will be the bad man as always. We'll start off with Kevin Bird, regular contributor and question asker during our chats. He says, not a big Jewish population in Michigan that I'm aware of. What was the motivation to become kosher certified?
I think it's in the same vein as the organics. It's just kind of a higher perceived and real value to kosher grains, and every ingredient that goes into the bottle is certified kosher. So the farms and every step along the way. So we're, it's not necessarily a religious component for any of us, but it's certainly something as well as a point of differentiation in the market. And we certainly sell in some markets that appreciate the fact that our whiskeys are kosher.
Awesome. Not a whiskey related question, but a golf related question for Bill. Scott Alexander wants to know, what is your favorite course to play or bucket list course? I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us each.
Well, I've been pretty fortunate. I've played a lot of great golf courses in my life, and golf's been really good to me, and it's led me down this path to distilling, and we have a product that we donate proceeds to the First Tee and Evan Scholar program, and those are both golf related charities as a way to kind of give back. But probably the best course maybe I've ever played is in New Jersey. It's called Pine Valley, and it's a fantastic golf course, and of course I got to play the old course a lot in St. Andrews, which is one of my favorites. I've never played Augusta. I don't know that I ever will, but I think that would be pretty high on my bucket list, and maybe anyone's. So
yeah, for sure.
It'd be pretty cool to do that.
Owen Larson asks, who had the idea of not adding malted barley to your bourbon mash bill?
Well, we actually had a few iterations of our bourbon recipe to start with, and the first couple did have some malted barley, and we just thought that it was a little too malt forward when we did that. It was the first year or so, we were probably at 15 to 20% malt, and it was just coming through too much on the style still we had. And we also were using commercial enzymes in our process, so we didn't need it there for the starch conversion, which would be a big reason. And so we just figured, let's try it with just the wheat and the rye as the secondary grains and see what that turned into. And we really liked the results. Nice sweetness from the wheat that kind of plays with the corn, and just that hint of spice from the rye. So it was a trial and error thing for the most part, and then just kind of we liked where we sat with it.
Yeah, I think you have to be happy with the product
Right.
you're putting out there, right? And choose what tastes best. Mm-hmm. Shauna Snyder wants to know, where she says, my husband and I had the pleasure of visiting your distillery. Is there a story of the large American flag with whiskey printed on it? It is gorgeous.
I wish there was a great story. We found a lot of different little artifacts in the distillery under construction. One of them was a Baby Ruth wrapper that was almost in pristine condition. We have it framed and on the wall here, and I think we looked it up. It's 5 cents. I think it was from the 1930s. But the flag, no. I wish there's a great story to it. My wife found that on eBay, and believe it or not, I think she only paid like $100 for it. But that's probably our most photographed spot in the building, and people just love it. It's a flag from 1895, and it has 45 stars on it. Obviously, 45 star only from 45 states during that time. And then, we put a plexiglass cover over it, and then we had the word whiskey written on the plexiglass over the flag. So obviously American whiskey. So that, kind of sums up, I guess, what we're all about.
That's awesome. Better to find a Baby Ruth wrapper than a Baby Ruth in a pool.
We did take a few of our bottles in the second. So we built the first distillery, and then we opened a restaurant and a second distillery in the same building. And the second time around, we buried some bottles of Buggy Whip. We make 100% wheat whiskey called Buggy Whip. And we put some bottles in the floorboards and stuff just in case, 150 years from now, someone comes through and turns a distillery into something else.
That's super cool. Rodney Alexander said, is there something specific that you learned in Scotland that you incorporate in your distilling practices today? Imagine a lot.
When I lived over there, I didn't learn anything about actually making whiskey. I just
Okay.
learned a lot about the culture, the history, and just an appreciation for it. But we actually, Tom and I, as a thank you to our distilling team, 5 years ago, I took the whole distilling team to Scotland, and one really special experience for us was we visited a number of distilleries, obviously, but we went and visited Glenfarclas, and George Grant is the 7th generation there. I think that distillery opened in the late 1700s, and the Grant family has been running it. He was incredibly generous with his time, but also he took us into one of their, they call it dunnage over there, but their whiskey barrel storage area. And I thought he was just going to show us around. So we walk in, and he's got all these barrels from like the 1950s, like just right there in front of us. And none of us are thinking we're actually going to get to drink any of it. But he goes and he got a whiskey thief, and still at that point, I thought he was pouring himself a sample. So he's filling a Glencairn with the whiskey thief, and then amazingly he shared the whiskey with all of us, and so we got to drink whiskey from 1959 with George Grant at Glenfarclas.
Oh, wow.
And so that all, we just like levitated out of there, and we all came back and we're like, we gotta make some malt and put it in sherry butts like Glenfarclas. So we did that. So we made a bunch of malt, and we put it in sherry butts. It's still sitting there. It's 5 years old right now, and we're kind of like shooting for maybe like a 8 to 10 year mark on that.
Is that going to be like a distillery exclusive release, or do you think that will see some distribution? Or
yeah, I suppose it would. I mean,
selfishly, I'm asking.
Well, we want nothing more than to share our spirits across the country. So I could see it going both ways, selling a little here and distributing some.
Awesome. Danielle Williams says, what are you doing / planning now in 2022 that will keep you competitive in the growing bourbon / whiskey scene? I guess you kind of answer that now with the, what you just said.
Oh yeah. We have a bunch of malt in barrel. We have a smoked cherry malt. We have
High rye.
Peated malt.
Peated malt. That we bought some peated malt from Scotland actually, and then I mentioned the sherry butts. But so it's kind of I love the smoky Isla whiskeys, so we've gone down that road a little bit, and I didn't want to make it right out of the gate because I wanted it to be our best stuff. And I think something, Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book stating that you needed 10,000 hours to be good at anything. And I mean, Tom's been here for 10 years, and actually most of our distilling team has been with us. I guess it helps if you take them to Scotland every once in a while. They've been with us, well, we got one guy at 10, 8, 7, and, a couple like 4 and 5. So, our guys are experienced. They've got their 10,000 hours, and the malt whiskeys were something we wanted to tackle after we had more experience behind the stills. But we're building another distillery.
Tom, have you done the math on like the day you hit your 10,000 hours?
No. I just need to do all those calculations.
He did it in 1 year. I worked him really hard. He was a free intern, so don't report us. We don't do that anymore.
That's funny. I don't know why this question is asked, but maybe I'm missing something. But Travis Ashbrook wants to know, does Journeyman have any electrician roots?
Yeah. How did he know that? No, actually, there's a guy. So this is a true story too. So when we were renovating this old factory building in 2010, one of the guys that was working as an electrician here, his name is Doug Babcock. he and I became friends during the remodel. And I said to him, I'm like, dude, I don't really know a whole hell of a lot about fixing anything. And it was becoming quite evident that there was going to be a lot of stuff breaking around here. And so I said to Doug, I'm like, why don't you quit your electrician job and join me, and let's open this distillery together, the production facility component. And he did, and he's been here ever since. Doug's been with us. He was our first hire. He's been with us coming up, I guess it's been 11 years. I'm sure your person that asked the question didn't know about Doug, but the Journeyman name, while we're actually in a pretty heavy union area, so a lot of people think it has to do with the trades. It actually has more to do. I'll try and keep this story brief, but I came back from Scotland in 2001 to work in the family business. I was the third generation, and my grandfather and my dad really wanted to see a multi-generational business. In 2006, the business was sold because his siblings had wanted to see the business sold, and for their own personal reasons. They never worked in it. My dad ran it. And so I never got to really realize that third generation. And the Journeyman name for me is just kind of life throws these curveballs. And in a way, I had to kind of reinvent myself and went from, we were in the banking business and went from banking to booze. So a lot of people thought that was a good thing. It's kind of just that idea of life's a journey, and there's all these different twists and turns and paths. And I always, when I'm doing these events, kind of relate it to the fact that somehow all of us are on a Zoom call here at 10 o'clock Eastern time talking about whiskey, and our paths have all crossed in this weird, funny way. So I guess that's Journeyman to me.
That's super cool. I love that story.
Okay.
All right. Two more questions here, and then we will choose our favorites. Let's see here. David Pulley says, in a world of hazmat whiskeys taking the world by storm, what is the inspiration behind bottling all of the Journeyman bottles at 90 proof?
Well, we do have some cask strength offerings as well. Like, of course, the Swips and Whiskey is a cask strength offering, and we do some in-house cask strength stuff as well. But we like the 90 proof because it's approachable, it's drinkable, and it's still good bang for your buck, and good, and you really see the good quality at that proof, we think, too. And I think, but there are other options. In-house we sell 100 proof. And so it's what works for us, I think, but we're not married to just doing that proof.
I would say early on, back in 2011, it was kind of twofold. One, we thought that the whiskeys drank really nicely right around 90 proof, but two, back then, 80 proof was the standard, and it's not that it was that long ago, but this cask strength piece, which I love cask strength whiskeys, but it's been kind of more of a recent development, I feel like, in terms of mainstream. I feel like the drinker, it started back in 2011 for us. People were walking in asking, well, what kind of beer do you have? Not even knowing what a distillery was. And all of a sudden, over the last 10, 11 years now, people are graduated to cask strength whiskey, It started off with we don't even know what whiskey is, but now the consumer is grown and grown to the point of cask strength, which is awesome. And I think that's a great place for the industry to be.
Cool. I think 80 proof bourbon has its place, but I think I've said it on this call before, and no offense to any 80 proof whiskeys out there, but I think 80 proof is a waste of time.
That's a kind way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's kind of watery.
All right, one more question, guys, and then we will choose our favorites of the night. Let's see here. Clark White essentially wants to know what do you feel is the most a rewarding aspect of working at a craft distillery?
I'll let these guys go first.
Yeah, for me, it's just being able to spread, I guess, the quality, the joy, the hard work, and seeing the results and the fruits of your labor. It's always great to, either be on a tour or be with some customers, and they're enjoying something that you had your hand in, and really just on the company side of it, just we're growing, but we've been a small company for a long time. It's been a pretty close-knit group of people who have been doing this since I started 10 years ago, and I think we all have the same commitment and same idea to see this place succeed and have the same drive to get it there.
I think most recently, I worked a whiskey festival at a Mohegan Sun on Easter weekend, because that's what you do when you're in the liquor industry. And we recently launched Connecticut, so we're a new brand to that state where not many drinkers have been able to see Journeyman. And just the fact that for 4 hours, I didn't get a break, I didn't get to sit down, I didn't get to breathe. We just had an influx of whiskey consumers that were just awed by the package, the juice themselves. And the beautiful part about doing one of these trade shows, you get to see a face once, they say something kind, it's great. But the fourth time around, when they say the same exact thing, but it gets looser and looser in their words, and they're just like, oh, this is the best juice, just holds out their cup. And, it's the praise of going into a new market, showing off the brand, and you end up, I always describe it as one person at a time, one account at a time, because it's really the market right now. But it's just beautiful to see the impact that we can have going into a new market, or even in one of our states where we're a known brand, people will still always come back up to our table before the show and just let us know that we have the best juice around. And it's always great to be able to share the stories and introduce people to their new favorite brand or new favorite whiskey, which when there's so many options out there, it's always great to be able to do something like that.
As for me, I think it's the barrels. We still have our oldest barrel has whiskey in it still. It's 11 years old now. So I love, we have some of these barrels around the distillery, and this is probably like a glimpse into my future job here, is going around and telling people about the barrels. For instance, my wife and I, when we got married, we had our guests fill a barrel. That barrel's here. When our daughter was born, we filled a barrel for her. Her name is Isla. And so Isla has her own barrel. And, I do a monthly tour for new hires and just tell stories about all the barrels around here.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
So will Isla be able, does she get all the whiskey in the barrel when she turns 21, or how?
The environment around here, I think she's down to about 60% of what was in there.
Oh, wow. How old is she now?
She's 9.
Okay.
But Sazerac puts their barrels into 45-degree environments when they don't want any more angel shares. So I think we're eventually going to have to tuck those barrels into some kind of walk-in fridge.
Or you just let it go and there's, a dozen bottles just for her.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to recap the questions here. So let me know which one's your favorite, and I will have the task of choosing the winners. So we had the question about kosher certified, why that's important to you. Question about favorite golf course and bucket list golf course. Question about not having malted barley in the mash bill. Question about the flag. question about incorporating anything you learned in Scotland into today's practices. Question about what's to come, what are you doing to keep competitive in the bourbon/whiskey scene. The electrician question. We had the most rewarding aspect of working for a craft distillery. And then we also had the question about why you guys stick to the 90 proof bottling for most of your stuff. So, Kevin, you want to go first? What was your favorite?
Oh,
question?
yeah, I wrote it down while we were going through it. I actually really love Rodney Alexander's question about the Scotland inspiration.
Cool. Tom?
I think the electrician one. I think it was a good one. It really shows the levels.
I didn't know Doug's origin.
Levels to the Journeyman name, I think, which is cool, even if they're unintended. I think in some sense.
I'll go with Clark White. About rewarding aspects of craft distilling.
All right. This is always the tough part. I'm going to go with second place. I'm going to go with the electrician question because I feel like it allowed some insight into some history and just kind of a fun fact and the name behind Journeyman. And then do a drum roll. I'll go with the most rewarding aspect of working for a craft distillery, just because I think that's a main theme for the night. Sorry, Kevin. No offense to your question, because so it was a great question. But I feel like it was kind of a good way to put a bow on all this of certified organic, everything made in the state of Michigan, and just really the how rewarding running a craft distillery can be. So for our maestro behind the scenes, I think that question was from the electrician question was from Travis Ashbrook. So we have a cool Journeyman swag bag coming your way. And then Clark White, we have a signed bottle, and I think that barrel, that bottle is going to maybe take a couple months, right? From what we heard.
I'm
single barrel pick,
I'm not sure on that, but I know.
Clark, we'll let you know.
Yeah,
we'll get it to you. We promise.
Specific one.
Yeah. All right, guys. I know it's late, so I will let you go. We appreciate your time, and members, till next month. We'll see you then. Have a good night. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Come see us in Michigan.